Produce on Purpose is a self-help book which allows you to experience life by being the real you. Today, I talk one-on-one with the author of this book, Randy Adkins Jr., for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Randy Adkins Jr., welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey, Quintin, it is finally great to meet you, and I'm ready to talk a little bit about my book.
Absolutely. In fact, we know that you are a Low Country native here in South Carolina. You are a corporate consultant, an ordained minister, a community leader, and a distinguished Toastmaster who's now the author of the self-help book, Produce on Purpose, which is to experience life being the real you. Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Randy. What got you from having all those careers to now being a self-help author?
Well, it is a great track that I have kind of been going on throughout my entire life. It is one where I am looking for, everyone throughout all of those things in my life that I've done, that they begin to have a better life. And the reason for the book is to put it all into words, from being an ordained minister to being able to try to live a life that is better. That's what I'm looking for. As I wrote this book, I wanted to be able to share that and also leave that someone can read it, have a way to be able to have a better life from a spiritual perspective, from their body, their soul, and that they can be more connected in this life and that they can be the real them in every situation that they live in. So yeah, that's kind of how I got there.
And so now that Produce on Purpose has been written, how are you being the real you?
So consistently trying to be the real me is taking off these masks that I wear on a consistent basis. So what I have found is that being a corporate consultant or being in the church or whatever position that I am, many times I end up having to wear a mask. And when I say a mask, that means that I'm trying to fit into whatever that social situation is. And so many times we find ourselves being great actors and actresses in this world. And that means that anytime I get into a particular situation, I can put on that mask, but it doesn't really tell you what I'm really thinking. It doesn't tell you how I really feel, right. But it actually allows me to kind of get into the social norm with everyone else. And you end up leaving not feeling the best you. And if you want to be the best you, it's better to remove those masks and let people know who you really are and what you really think. And the world is looking for more of us to be able to be the unique person that we were designed to be. We were designed from our Creator. I call my Creator God, and He is the one that allows us to be able to say, these masks I don't need. I just can be me and who I'm supposed to be. And the purpose that I'm here is going to be what I'm going to produce in this world. And so by doing that, that's what I've been doing on a consistent basis, is consistently removing those masks, letting go of those things that have kind of allowed me to be an actor. And I want to become more of a producer. I even talk about this in the book. I said, you can be a director if you want, but even the director has some creative responsibilities, but they ultimately work for the producer. And the producer is the one that brings all the resources together. Wouldn't you rather be the producer, even though the actor and the actress are the ones on the front stage and everybody knows their name? But in the end, guess who makes all the money? Guess who actually ends up taking care of it? It's the producer. And why don't you be the producer of your own life? And that's what I've been doing on a consistent basis, is removing those masks in all of these different situations so that the Randy that you see as a corporate consultant is the same Randy that you see in church, is the same Randy you see at home, it's the same Randy that you see wherever you might meet me. And I'm not going to change the mask because you get exhausted changing those masks.
Well, I bet you do. So when it comes to Produce on Purpose, and obviously you were writing this, what type of mask did you have to put on for that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So putting on not really so much of a mask, but trying to be a great teacher, being able to write in a way that is clear and consistent, that anyone could read this book and be able to get their spiritual awakening out of it. It actually goes through steps as we start from connecting with God to moving into a place where you understand a vision and in actually going through and saying, organizing that in a way, telling some antidote stories that I have learned along the way that kind of help with that. And then most of all, I base everything in scripture. So if someone wants to go back and they want to say, how does this really relate to my life? Then they can go to scripture, they can go to their lives and begin to relate that in their lives and begin to remove those masks. And as I put on the author hat and wrote and I taken and put this in place, that was what I was thinking. And as I was going through this whole process, now writing is an interesting process, man. I didn't know it was this much involved. I thought once I had a manuscript, that was it.
Yeah.
Well, actually editing takes a very long time. So
Oh, yes, indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Mr. Randy, let me ask you this. Now, okay, what was your spiritual awakening while writing Produce with Purpose?
yeah. So for me, my spiritual awakening really occurred as I was writing this book, which was interesting because I've been very active in all that I do throughout my life. So in the corporate world, I'm a software consultant, and so I do that on a consistent basis. Also you're taking care of home. I have three beautiful children, a wife, and love them and enjoy life every single day with that. Then I was also really assisting my pastor at my church and doing that on a consistent basis. And so, and then being in the community, I was on different boards of directors and helping people throughout. And so I found myself in putting on many of these roles and these masks and different things. And I took a sabbatical from church, and that means I didn't go, I didn't have anything, and that time was good time for me to kind of break away and understand what was going on with me as I was writing this and finishing up the edits that needed to be had there. I found that out of that experience, it allowed me to let go of a lot of the social norms, social conditioning that we sometimes have that we don't really notice because you're just kind of going through the steps. And it's like the more that I could do, I was like, the more I can do, I can do more. I can do more. I can find more time to be helpful and help somebody over here, and I can also help somebody over there. And what I found was, if you can take a step back, sometimes it will help people that are around you that may be depending on you, that now they're able to also step up and do even greater things themselves. And because it's easy, I think, when you say, oh yeah, somebody call you up and say, I can do it. No, not a problem. I can do it. But now when you're not available, people step up. And that was a spiritual awakening for me, because at that moment in time, I was able to take off many masks and then allow me to be truly who I am. And when you put on the actual boundaries, and see, this is something that I learned, that if you have boundaries don't mean that you're going to be mean, you're going to be upset or anything, but you're able to say no to your vision. This may not fit for what I'm supposed to be doing, but I can, when I'm available to help, I will help. But the boundaries allow me to set that up. And guess what I found is that all of the true relationships, they remain. And not only that, they get better. And so that's been a really personal thing for me that has helped me to grow and to be in this place at this moment, and to be able to share this as an author, as a speaker, as a teacher, that you can produce on your own purposes and who you are. And if you just put these things in place, you're not going to lose your relationships. You're not going to lose anything. You actually will gain, which is, I can talk about this all day, because the one part that gets me excited is that many times we've been told in school, and going through school, you're told the more you get, the more you gain. Well, actually, it's really the more you let go, the better the gains that you're going to get. And that's what I found out as I've been going through this process. And you're like, what?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. And I don't want to make this interview too personal, but let me ask you this, Mr. Randy. Going back, obviously, to Produce on Purpose, what were those boundaries when it came to writing this particular book for you?
Yeah, the boundaries had to be that sometimes I had to choose. I need to be writing. I need to be focused on this versus when someone calls and says, "Hey, I need help with this," and well, it might not take me a whole lot of time, but and in fact, it's actually taking me away from my vision. I had to say no in those cases, and or at this moment I don't have the time, and having that place in place with all those that are around me, all different types of relationships that many times may have been really focused on just needing the help, and I don't mind helping, but I had a vision and I had a focus that I had to finish, and that vision needed to get out just as bad as helping that other person. And guess what I found is that they found other people to help them in those situations, or they were able to do it themselves. They were like, they'll call me back and say, "Oh, I was able to figure it out." So that's what I found is putting that together, and that allowed me to continue to push through because you could have a difficulty with writer's block and other things if you're always doing something else.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And Mr.
Yes.
Randy, when you put down your book, Produced on Purpose, you finished it and you published it and everything, and it's out there now. When you
Yes.
took a step back, what about those social norms that you didn't realize were in existence prior to the book?
Yeah, so many social norms that many times are in place or are conditions. Sometimes we are told that you are unable to do, looking at you and say, "Hey, why are you? Why would you be the one that's able to do that?" It's like, why not me? That's number one. Number two is, there are many things that are told to us as I think as we're growing up that we just kind of take as they are kind of the gospel, and it's like, no, and so it provides you with kind of more of a lack mentality. And so when I'm looking at many situations, I may have been looking at those situations in lack versus in a place of abundance where God has given me as a unique person. You're a unique person. We all have the abundance of God to be able to provide us more in this world than what we sometimes can think. But the way you grow up, sometimes those conditions are there. That everything in this world, there may be people that are against you. That's fine, but that's not a social condition. That's just sometimes I was told I had to be 110% better than everyone else around me because of who I am and the color of my skin. That's social conditioning. You just need to be who you were born to be and who you are. And if you continue to do that and not put those kinds of pressures on yourselves, you let go of those conditionings, you will become stronger. You will understand that you can do these things and with the right support system. Now, I encourage everyone that you need the support from the source who is your God, and you need support from those that are around you to continue to propel you to make sure that you can produce the purposes that you are born to produce.
And Mr. Randy, let me ask you this as this lawnmower goes by. How can ideas become reality?
Yes. So I write in the book, there is a description where I talk about early on when I was about 8, me and one of my best friends, we would go in the backyard and we would just kind of build out these forts. And it was just off the top of our heads. We would put everything together and put those things in place. And after putting those things in place, I found out that we would come up with this thing in our head, and then it would become a reality in his backyard. And of course, his mom would make us clean it up there, at night and before at nighttime and get home. But what I found during that time is I really like the idea of whatever idea that I have up here. There could be anything. You might have a dream. You might have something that you're wanting to do. Maybe you want to travel the world. Maybe you are a person that sees yourself, being able to help a lot of people. It can be done. There's nothing that cannot be done. Maybe you want to be an author. You want to have a published book. Maybe that's your dream. So it's an idea that's up here, and then it becomes a reality by you, number one, focusing on that vision. And you have to be able to have a vision, understand what the vision is, and make that vision clear. If that vision is clear, then you have to then set those boundaries we talked about and make sure that anything that is not following that vision that you set aside. People coming to you, I love to help you, but at this moment I'm taking care of this vision. And anything that helps propel that vision, then that idea then allows that vision to start to materialize into this real world. And then you have to put a plan together and start walking through that plan. And as things navigate and change, and we know things can change in life, don't be discouraged. You got to continue to see that vision till the very end. And most of us, what happens is we get down a trail of a vision, or you start going down a path, and then you hear naysayers, or you hear someone say you can't do this, and but they weren't the one that was given the vision. If you're the one with the vision, and I encourage everyone that's listening, if you're the one with the vision, then you're the one that is supposed to see it to the very end. And even if there are ones that are very, very close to you, sometimes it's close people, sometimes it's people that are further away. They may say things that tell you, hey, Quintin, you can't do Quintin close-ups. I don't see why you would be able to do that. No, you keep doing it. You keep doing it. And before you know it, you have it in front of the world, and you're sharing your message. You're sharing that idea. That idea becomes a reality, and it's consistent. But you have to keep your focus on it, and don't let anything else deter you from that. Don't let those distractions. We have so many distractions that can take us away from that idea starting to become a reality.
And so, Mr. Randy, what things can help us propel that is our vision?
Yeah, so really a focus and a dedication to me, it starts to be on who you are. And I compose and talk about in the book that we are spirit, we are body, and we are soul. And I think it's important for us to understand that there are those basic three areas that make up who we are. When we focus on our body and making our body the best that we can make our body, and we all know what those things are in our lives that we need to do, whether it's health, whether it's going to be wealth, and I try to use the body as all of your external things. So your five senses, anything that's outside of you, you want to make that in the best environment that you can. And then you want to take your soul and who your soul is, and you want to. That's where your mind, will, your emotions, and your thinking, and those great ideas come from. And you want to make sure that you are feeding that towards whatever the vision is for your life. Because as you begin to understand that purpose in your life and begin to focus on that, then you begin to align your body with your soul, and then your spirit. I have to be in prayer, and also I talk about fasting in the book. If you want to propel your production and your purpose, your purpose should come from your creator. Your creator is the one that made you. You're here, and we are all unique. So your parents can't tell you what you're supposed to do. Those who are around you and your family can't tell you. Those that even you meet can't tell you. You have to know your purpose. And as you know your purpose, then you align with the Spirit through prayer. This is on a daily basis. And one of the things that the Bible tells us is that we're supposed to die to ourselves daily. Right. And there's this big thing that we all have. It's called the ego. Mm-hmm. And that ego will stop us in our tracks whenever we are trying to accomplish these great feats, these producing these things on purpose that are supposed to be beautiful, supposed to end up in the love that our Creator actually created for us. When we align body, soul, spirit, and we consistently do this on a daily basis. So I tell people, don't feel like you have to do everything. You don't have to go from 0 to 100. No, let's do 0 to 1 today. Then 1 to 2, and maybe you skip to 5. And as time goes on, you will get to 100, but you have to be patient with that. let the time come. And I know that today in our society that we're usually looking for things very fast. But I promise you, not even I promise you, but God promises you that if you would be patient and you wait on him, that time will come if you surely don't faint.
Exactly right. And
Yeah.
so, Mr. Randy, how can you actually listen to your heart and actually co-create manifestations with God?
Yeah, so listening to your heart is really interesting because listening to your heart is very different than listening to what's here in your head, and that ego is up there in your head. And usually, our tendency is to go with our head, but all of us. And this is going back to when you begin to start to let go of these social conditions and what's going on in your mind. We all have a unique condition within our bodies actually respond when things happen. And if you've ever had that feeling when you've seen the blue lights behind you because you were speeding or doing something like you missed a stoplight or something, and you have that, well, that's inside of you. That's that gut feeling that says something's not right. And that gut feeling happens more often than just those times. It happens throughout your life. And what we want to do is continue to remember that our heart is the thing that is responding to all of the things that are happening in this world. And if we can listen to our heart, which is a chapter in the book that tells us that we begin to listen to what is it that is really being stated for me to do in this moment and in this situation. And it's going to be difficult initially because your head is going to try to rationalize and analyze what should I be doing? Or maybe what I've learned in school, I'm going to use that to try to move forward. And it's not that way. In fact, the heart sometimes will tell you, wait a minute, don't say anything in this situation. And you'll be like, but I need to let everyone know that there needs to be justice for this. And like, wait, not this moment, not at right here. And as you are moving forward, that's the kind of thing that the heart will begin to share with us. So you listen to the body's reactions. Your heart is going to tell you, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. And many times we have these conversations that are going on in our heads, and it's happening on a consistent basis. And we're like, oh, I didn't even sit back and notice that I was having this full conversation in my head. And it's between your heart and your head. If you would really listen to your heart and be led with your heart instead of your head, you will begin to move in a space where you are actually producing what you're supposed to be producing, and you're going to see your vision start to move forward in a way that is no longer stopped by the things of the ego or from naysayers or anything else that's outside of you. You will begin to work from the inside of you out versus the outside in.
And when
Very
we are,
good concept.
oh, absolutely. And so when we are whole in our body, spirit, and mind, Mr. Randy, what else can help us move our vision forward?
Yeah. So once you are whole in your mind, your body, and your spirit, the consistent things that you need to do on a consistent basis is start moving forward with the planning of whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. I talk about in the book that you are a producer and you are producing a mini movie. And so I call them mini movies because we have different seasons in our lives. And each of those mini movies can be a season in your life. And as you're moving through those mini movies of your life, you're producing a movie for this entire world to be able to see. And out of that, you begin to align yourself, number one, by connecting and getting your alignment with your body, soul, and your spirit. Now it is imperative that on every single day you begin to now walk in understanding that that vision needs to come together. And so if I'm producing a movie, I have to be able to get the right actors in place. So all of those that are going to support what I'm doing, I need to be able to get all of the directors in place. So if I want to see something happen in my life, I need to be making networking connections to the right people that need to be a part of that. I need to get the resources. So if there needs to be money, if there needs to be equipment for my movie to be the best that it's supposed to be, where do I go? One of the places to go is, of course, to your creator for that. But then there are pieces where we can do ourselves. And that's one thing that the creator has given us. He's given us free will. So you can go yourself, and there are many things that you can do on a consistent basis. If you know that you are going down a place and you need support from others, start making those connections, start having those conversations, start talking to people, and not being in a place of so much driven by the outside and by the emotions on a consistent basis. And I see it as this: if you're building your movie and you're being driven only by your emotions, we will see that in your movie. And those who are around you will be affected by that. But if you begin to be driven by what's on the inside and you're not affected so much, we're all going to have our emotions, but that's not driving the decisions. That's not driving how we're supposed to move forward. Then you now have an alignment between your body, your soul, your spirit. You're listening to what your creator has given you. And even though there will be days when you are uncomfortable, you still know that you are taking one step forward. And I say, if you can just take one step forward that day, even if it's a hard step, sometimes you ain't gonna feel like stepping. It might be a half a step, right, but you are still moving forward. And that's what I encourage everyone to do. You start aligning and you'll start feeling a flow. And this is something athletes get. And I talk about that in the book as well. And even more from a spiritual side, is that there begins to be a flow in your life. And you will begin to have a greater influence to those that are around you. And those, once you have influence, you can get results in your life. You can begin to see what was put in you, begin to see it manifest in this world, and it becomes more of a reality. And that's important, that we consistently do that and consistently lean on that as we're moving forward. So my encouragement is, once you're aligned in that way, is the daily walk of continuing, let go of all the emotions and be directed by your heart. Continue to follow the instructions of who you are and what you were born to be. And, even if there's still questions about what am I supposed to do next, if you keep doing more things, you'll figure out that there's some things I wasn't meant to do. And so now, even though I may have the skills to do them, I know that's not what I'm supposed to do. So I'll say, maybe someone else around me is supposed to do that. So get support to help you in those areas.
And besides emotions, Mr. Randy, what else should we let go while we're working forward to get that vision?
Yeah. So biggest things is the emotions, the social conditions, and preconceived notions that we sometimes have. And there are sometimes traumas in our lives. And I also talk about that in the book, because and if you need therapy, I encourage people to get therapy. I also, I'm an ordained minister. We usually focus on the spiritual side. You also need therapy. Sometimes you need a conjunction of all of those things so that you can be aligned. And so it's important that we are not driven by our traumas. We are not driven by our emotions, and we're not driven by these sometimes mental structures that we have created that have caused us to be in a conditioned state. And you want to be free. And many people talk about freedom. And I believe the true freedom that even Jesus Christ was talking about in the scripture is that we should be free from all these mental anguish. I tell people, do not walk around in torture. Torture is like the worst thing that we could do. And torture could be that I'm having this thought and I keep allowing that thought to go into other things. Keep letting go of those thoughts, let go of those emotions, let go of those old traumas, those conditions. And we all have work to do every day. That will never stop. That'll be something that we consistently do, because no matter what you do, you're going to experience something. And today you might hit something and it hits you. Don't get upset at yourself. Just keep working through it. And as we work through it, we all become better, and you begin to produce on your own purpose.
Randy Adkins Jr. with Produce on Purpose. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much, Quintin. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be able to share this message with the entire world.
Yes, sir. You're very welcome.